Sometimes we say Happy Easter, and certainly that's a feeling that most of us have. Especially if we're children, Happy Easter, the Easter egg hunts, the stories about bunnies and this sort of thing. Easter inspires a lot of emotions. We can also have fear. Fear that as we recount the narratives from the Bible about Jesus, we can have the same fear at times that the disciples and others that witnessed the risen Jesus, what they had. So one of the teachings I think appropriate today is to have no fear, to be happy, to be joyful, to celebrate, certainly not be sad, because as we've looked at every day of Holy Week, we've looked at a different account from the Bible, from the Scriptures, about what all Jesus went through with in Holy Week, Week of Passion. So this morning we can sort of say, oh boy, it's over. Jesus is resurrected. But also we can explore, we can ask questions, we can read the different accounts in the Scriptures, 4 different Gospels that many times are contradictory. From the first Gospel, which was Mark, the first one that came along, the oldest of the manuscripts, it was a very simple statement. In the last chapter of Mark, and of course it was debated for a long time, that last chapter in the original Mark had no stories about any appearances of Jesus. It just simply stated that Jesus was killed on the cross, was crucified, and then that he was placed in a tomb. Matthew came along and looked over Mark's gospel. He added a few things. Luke even more, and John really the most of any accounts in the resurrection narrative. So which one was true? Like I said, you can almost go crazy reading and putting them side by side, because you have a difference in the number of angels. You have a difference in the number of women, and whether there was or was not women at the tomb. But here's the thing, all of these gives us a different look. And we have to interpret all these things spiritually rather than literally, and realize that the stories are for our benefit, that were written not for us to take them literally in every case, but to take them spiritually. Today I've chosen from the Gospel according to Matthew, 28th chapter, verse 1 through 10. Again, this Gospel is almost like Mark, because the 3 Gospels, it's so similar. They borrowed, they added, they took away a lot of times in their recording. But let's look at Matthew 28 in Matthew. Verse 1, after the Sabbath, as the first day of the week was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. So you have 2 women. That's all Matthew records. 2 women. Both of them named Mary. There was, just like in our language, there's a lot of names. Like my name's Glenn. There's a lot of Glens. And then I have a last name. But in this time that we're looking at, they usually didn't have but one name, and then to distinguish them where they were from. So this is sort of cryptic here. You got Mary Magdalene, who is mentioned in other parts of the scriptures, and then the other Mary. It could have been one of some more. You have, of course, Jesus' mother Mary. You have Mary Magdalene. You have Mary of Jacob. You have Mary Clopas and Mary of Bethany. So your guess is as good as mine, but that doesn't matter. It's not about these Marys. It's about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. In verse 2, and suddenly there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descending from heaven came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. So you have an angel, which typically throughout the Bible, angels were messengers. That's pretty much their function in all the things we read about in the Bible. Their function, messengers to us. And this particular, well, the scripture says there was a great earthquake. There again, if you think deeply about this idea of a message from God, it can be earth-shattering for us. It can really shake us up. So there was an earthquake, and the angel descending from heaven. Well, we have to sometimes use the teachings of Jesus to help us interpret any of the scriptures in the Bible. And Jesus said the kingdom is within us. And so when we think of down from heaven, this was typical cosmology back in those days. There was the earth, the layer of the earth where there was life, up above the heavens, down below the darkness. Well, the angel came down from heaven. We might say we got a message, or they got a message from God. Verse 3, his appearance was like lightning, and his clothing white as snow. You see this image of whiteness and lightning or light. Anything that comes from the kingdom of heaven, the Spirit, we can kind of identify these things. The clothing white, at least from the paintings that we look at. In verse 4, for fear of him the guards shook and became like dead men. Well, the guards were placed there by Pilate because of just a demand from the religious authorities. They wanted the tomb guarded because they were afraid that the followers of Jesus would steal him away from the tomb. And so they wanted guards posted. It was their job to keep anybody from fooling around at the tomb. So when the guards start seeing what this angel was doing, actually rolling back the stone, then of course they'd be afraid. And later on, these same soldiers was paid to hush hush, to cover up all that they witnessed. Was paid by the Sanhedrin money to not tell anybody. Because in all of these four Gospels, the thing that's the same, the tomb was empty. There was nobody in the tomb, which you can see caused concern and fear out of all the participants of this scene at the tomb. Verse 5, but the angel said to the women, Do not be afraid. I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. Of course, the women's already in awe of what they went to a tomb just like you and I would go to a tomb. To pay respect to somebody that they loved, that they had saw die on the cross. And a lot of times we go to the tombs and we wonder, where is our loved one? And that's important in this resurrection narrative. Where was Jesus? Where was Jesus? Where had he went? And I think we're going to get sort of an answer on how we ourselves, no matter what these women saw, people saw back in those days, this great event, how do we witness the resurrection? Because that's important, because the resurrection is not just about the resurrection of Jesus. It's our resurrection that's important here. And a lot of times resurrection means an awakening of ourselves, an awakening to the truth about the resurrection. So how do we know? How do we see? Verse 6, the messenger, the angel, says, "He is not here, for he has been raised as he said. Come see the place where he lay." And so they saw. The two Marys saw where Jesus had laid, and he was gone. In verse 7, then the messenger says, "Then go quickly and tell his disciples he has been raised from the dead, and indeed he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him. This is my message for you." Why in this gospel, where in the other gospels we don't hear about Jesus going to Galilee? That's where he did his ministry. Most of his ministry was in Galilee. And so this messenger, this angel, says he's going ahead of you, or ahead of the disciples. Go and tell his disciples he's going to Galilee. In verse 8, so they left the tomb quickly with fear and great joy, and ran to tell his disciples. They were fearful, but yet they were filled with joy. Something great had happened. Jesus still lived. When we talk about our loved ones, isn't it a joy to understand that they still live with God, that there really is nobody in the graves around here. There's a body, there's a corpse that deteriorates, but the real person, the spirit person, is no longer there. In verse 9, suddenly Jesus met them and said, "Greetings." And they came to him, took hold of his feet, and worshiped him. And in verse 10, then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me." So how would they see him in Galilee? What if this represents the world and other people doing what Jesus did? What if we see Jesus in other people in the world, following his commandments, feeding the hungry, sheltering the homeless? What if that's how we witness today, in days to come, the resurrection of Jesus Christ? God bless you on this Easter. Amen.